Yakuza 6 is probably my favorite Yakuza game. And the majority of the reason for that is what you're seeing right here. This is Onomichi. It is the second city that you visit in the course of Yakuza 6. And they present it so well in so many different ways. In the construction of the town, where you've got everything from just a dock that you can stand on and watch the boats float in the water, to the tiny winding streets that crisscross all the way through the city, to climbing the hill and going to the shrine, or going to the baseball field, or just having a bit of a stroll along the main road. It is a really nice place to just inhabit, because it's full of all these little environmental details, all these little touches that really make it feel lived in, and really give it that sort of comfy and cozy feel that something like Kamurocho or Sotenbori or any of the other cities that you visit, especially in the case of Ijincho, the city you visit in Like a Dragon, this city beats it out 10 times over, just because of how nice and comfy it is just to inhabit and explore. But of course, this isn't the only reason that I think Yakuza 6 is my favorite Yakuza game, although it is the main one, because everything eventually ties back in to how Onomichi works just as a place, as a setting, because there's always a bunch of things around the outside that feel like they're coming in to help out the city, its atmosphere, its world building, you name it. It's something. Whether or not it's the story, which leads you around the city, teaches you a bit of its history, and helps you learn about the people that inhabit it, or whether it be the side stories, of which there are a few that are exclusive to Onomichi, and not only on top of the usual comedic plots you've got, like during the story, just after you go through a story important cutscene, a boy and the girl fall down some stairs and get your named, which is funny, but it doesn't really compare to something along the lines of, say, the infamous Onomichio side quest, where Kazuma just dresses up as the city's mascot and has to do things like go through for a TV show, or beat the crap out of some people who threaten some kids. It's Yakuza, what do you expect, right? But it still manages to give this town just a little bit of extra flavor. Whether it be people who've come here from Kamurocho to escape the hustle and bustle, or whether it be highlighting a certain bit of urban legend from the city, whether it be the statues that you can read the poems on, or the graveyard that has the urban legend about the ghosts. All of these little things just give Onomichi just that little bit of extra just small town coziness that you really hope for from a series like this, because what Yakuza has always been good at is virtual tourism, which is you get to go to the city, or let's say a country town, you get to explore it, you get to partake in a bunch of side activities that feel like being part of the city and the way that it flows, and Yakuza 6 just hits it out of the park. Funny timing considering the footage on screen, but the game hits it out of the park when it comes to making Onomichi a real place. And while there are some side activities, like say going spearfishing, which is over the top ridiculous, it still adds that little bit of flavor when you see Kazuma just standing on the bow of the ship, just going straight out into the sea, and you can see the other side of the river, I assume you would call it, in the background, and it just looks great. Or whether it be the simple side activity of wandering into a bar and getting to know the regular patrons. That's just, I mean, it's not something you could really get away with in a big city like Kamurocho, because everything's up in lights, it has to be big in scale, and it just wouldn't work as a concept, at least in my personal opinion. But when you come to a small town like Onomichi, just a small group of buildings in what feels like the middle of nowhere, in a district that nobody would know about if they didn't get nuked in World War II, it just works as a concept, and it makes Onomichi feel lived in. It feels like a real place. It probably is, because it would be the first time that Yakuza has taken a real world district and represented it somewhere else. I've never honestly looked it up, but like, even if it was real, like, it wouldn't matter if it wasn't properly, like, if it didn't feel properly lived in. And what I'm saying is, it feels like a real place. It feels like somewhere real people live and get into real people problems. And it's just really nice to be in, to explore, to learn the stories of it. And even when it comes down to the main story, where you're just getting used to and meeting a bunch of small-time Yakuza thugs, learning about them, getting to know them, know their personalities. This game also does an absolutely fantastic job at that as well. Everyone gets their time to shine. And I hate to like discount everyone else's performance, but if you want to say that, say, Yakuza and its acting is on another level, and there are many cases where it is, especially in comparison to like Western games that have like 5 times the budget. When Beat Takeshi turns up in this game, his performance is not on another level, it's at the end of the fucking game. He is incredible. And this is the Beat Takeshi who is well known for hating video games. This is the Beat Takeshi who made Takeshi's Challenge by writing down a bunch of nutso ideas and sticking them on a bloody napkin and handing it to a game designer and said, do this. That might actually be an urban legend. I can't remember for sure, but I'm just saying. That game is so crazy, that story is believable. He's come out and said he hates video games multiple times over the course of the last 20, 30 years. And yet, when he shows up in Yakuza 6, he puts in so much goddamn effort that he puts everyone else to shame. And it is an absolutely fantastic performance. I remember when I finished Yakuza 6, I went and looked up a bunch of his movies, and his movies are also absolutely excellent. Wonderful acting, and he is the absolute emotional core of this plot. And again, no spoilers, I promised, but it's worth it. It's worth seeing his story, it's worth seeing the story of all the goons that look up to him. And it also still manages to maintain that small people going through a big problem feel that something like Yakuza 1 is a lot better at. Because if you don't know, Yakuza 1 and 2 are actually written by a Japanese crime novelist, and then that kind of ended up going in-house as of Kenzan, which was the game after 2 but before 3. So, the city is great, the story is great, and I don't mean to discount everyone else that isn't Beat Takeshi, but he really does steal the room that much, but I really do like pretty much everyone, and I do like Kazuma. I do like the way he turns out. I do like the fact that his ending feels earned, and considering the fact that you don't actually get that much up close and personal time with him in most of the other games, even like Yakuza 1 and 2 were a fair bit different in comparison to the later entries, but even then you didn't get that much up close and personal time with him as a person. But Yakuza 6 gives you a fair bit more of that, and considering that this is the last game he was ever a mainline star of, I really appreciate it. He needed as much time, he needed as much time as he could possibly get in order to just flesh him out a bit more as a character. I mean, he's already been fleshed out a lot throughout this series, but it's just like, this was just the last little cherry on top that I needed to help him feel more like a more well-rounded and more reasonable person, and not just like the Yakuza with a heart of gold who'll beat the crap out of anyone who decides to step in the way of that vision. And as a result, I really enjoy the story of this one. That's not to say there isn't any big twists, ridiculously buff dudes you need to beat the shit out of, and massive reveals. Like, even for the Yakuza series, one of the big reveals in this one is just so ridiculous that I had my jaw on the floor, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it. Again, I'm not saying what, but if I wanted to make a hint, what would I do to make a hint of what I'm talking about? 2199, 2202. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, you're a giant weeb, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I enjoyed the story of this one immensely. It gives Kazuma the time he needs to breathe. It gives him the send-off that he deserves. And most of it, not all of it, you do go back to Kamurocho a fair bit, and it has changed a lot over the past few years. But it does mean that it is satisfying as someone who played through this series from beginning to end. I played like, what was it? A couple of hours of Yakuza... it was probably Yakuza 0. Right when it came out. Because it didn't have that much in the way of marketing at that point. So I played like 2 hours of that. Or something along those lines. Then I was like, shit, I need to play through the rest of this. So I played through them more linearly. And I still think Yakuza 6 has to be my favorite so far. It's also helped out by the gameplay. Because all the side activities, again, they do really fit. There are new side activities back in Kamurocho as well. And a lot of them do fit. I appreciate having access to Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown on PC. Because that's a very good game. I do also appreciate the spearfishing, which is ridiculous, but it absolutely fits this game's tone. Just, Empress Squid, it's great. But along with all the ones like just going and meeting dudes at a bar, there's also some more silly ones back in Kamurocho, like, my personal favorite has to be the one where you're basically on a live streaming site and you type like you've got one finger on each hand. It's funny as hell, but it's still great. I appreciate the, I can't remember his exact name. It was like the Sexbot 9000 character. Doesn't break stride throughout anything that he sees. It's great. I love it. I love it to death. The main things that have really changed here, though, are the fighting and the experience system. And this is where a lot of people tend to fall off it, because it's definitely slower, it's definitely a bit heavier than the other games, and there are some areas that could be improved, but I still love them, because despite the fact that this was going to be Kazuma Kiryu's last game, and you could definitely say something along the lines of why don't they save all the really big changes for the next game, and to be fair, they kind of did, but if you follow this channel, you know that I absolutely hate Like a Dragon. So, they did make some big changes. All the combat is based around proper physics now, and isn't just like canned animations and what have you. And it is a lot heavier, but that means it's just a lot more satisfying to someone like me, because all the impacts are much more... You can definitely feel out the impacts a lot more than you could in the previous games. They felt a bit lightweight there, but here, nice and strong. You really get a sense of just how hard Kazuma is beating the shit out of people. And it's great. The only downside is that it comes with a reduced moveset, which I know a lot of people don't like, but that's fine. That is a legitimate criticism. And the fact that you don't have much in the way of crowd control, which has to be my big criticism, because it seems like the only way to effectively do crowd control, if no like gigantic objects are nearby that you can swing at people, the only effective way to do crowd control has to be pick up a dude, throw him into all the other dudes, and then focus on one while all the other dudes are down. Rinse and repeat. That seems to be the big way to do crowd control in this game, and it's a bit disappointing. It'd be nice to have more access to that. They did also do things like, say, make it so that hit actions require orbs instead of just meter. And there's also no weapons that you can pick, that you can equip, I should say. You can pick up objects off the ground, but they have a lot less durability than before, and they are simply not as useful. So, yes, it is a reduced moveset, but personally I'm happy to take the heavier feeling and the proper physics, especially when the physics can lead to some absolutely ridiculous situations. If you remember back when this game came out a few years ago, I did a video on this channel called The Dragon of Dojima Smashes a Lady and She's Not Interested, where he kicks a flower pot while trying to hit another guy. It flies 30 feet across the bloody map, and hits a lady in the head who just doesn't give a shit. She's just strolling along like nothing actually happened, and it's great. Sometimes you just get ridiculous shit like that just gives you a good laugh, and I find that to be entertaining enough to forgive it for its shortcomings. Also disappointing because they didn't really carry on with it. I mean, Kiwami 2 was pretty much just a straight up clone of this style, and then you had Judgment, which changed it up significantly. And then you had Like a Dragon, which took away the real-time combat completely. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't like that much of the approaches of any of those. But I also haven't played that much of Kiwami 2, he says. He's probably got like 15 hours of it on Steam. I swear, I don't even remember playing that much Kiwami 2, but apparently I did. But yeah, the combat is great. XP, not so much. You have to spend XP on a lot. There's 5 different kinds of XP now, and they can all be kind of a pain in the ass to get, and you usually need multiple kinds in order to get the good abilities. So you do feel kind of cramped, although it does give you more of an opportunity to go and eat stuff at the local restaurants, which is always appreciated. Just wish the hunger meter didn't exist though. One of the best upgrades you can get is making it so that you can eat as much as you want without getting full, because then you can just go and have as much, as much stuff as you want and get all the XP you can grab. I will admit it's a bit of a pain, but it does also work with something like Rise Up, which is a really interesting side quest where you have to explore as many of the restaurants as possible looking for a certain food to eat for a bonus to your workouts, for a bonus XP. And thankfully, at that place, there's actually a store that sells a ton of items that gives you lots of XP, at least early on, for a relatively decent cost. Although I'd probably recommend grinding the fuck out of the spearfishing in order to get yourself a bunch of money to do that. I don't really have much else to say though. I really do love Yakuza 6. Pretty much everything about it. I mean, I know there's problems. There are absolutely shortcomings, but I don't know if this is from this take or not. I've done this commentary multiple times, but I'm one of the weirdos in like Yakuza 3. I liked getting up close and personal with Kazuma and his story, so that's probably one of the reasons why I like this so much. But there is also Onomichi just in general. There is all the side activities being great. There is just the general combat being a big step up, and I actually really enjoyed the way that it innovated on the combat. And there's even like the little minor touches they didn't bring back for further games, like having all of the side stories have voice acting this time around. And it honestly doesn't feel like that the side stories were compromised in any way in order to make that happen. And as a result, it just feels like one of the more well-rounded Yakuza games when it comes to things like the storytelling. And yeah, I absolutely love it, and I am so happy that it's finally on PC, along with the rest of the series, so that we don't have to worry about PlayStation going bust tomorrow, and not having these games anywhere to be unavailable to play. Only real downside is that it's a Q-Lock port, and not a direct port from Ryuga Gotoku Studio themselves. They actually did the port of Like a Dragon, and it worked fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But this one hates multi-monitor setups. Be very careful when you're launching this the first time and try and put it in full screen, because it will screw you over. Go through the options menu first and take care of it there. But yeah, it runs fine for the most part. Pretty damn heavy on the old computer. I had it all on Ultra for this recording, and yeah, it did start to chug a bit if I put it any higher than 60 frames a second. But still, I enjoy the hell out of this game. I've enjoyed the hell out of this series. If they bring over Kenzan and Ishin and bring them onto PC, that'll be it. That'll be the entire series complete, and it'll be able to at least die happy. Although chances are it won't, because Despite the fact that Like a Dragon wasn't very good, apparently a lot of people enjoyed it. So I guess they get to have another entry of that. God knows what they're going to do next. I'm hoping it ends up being the remaster of Kenzan Nishin that they keep teasing. With that said, though, this has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.
さあ次に質問したい人いるかな？
はいはいはい。
じゃあそこの女の子。
私将来みちおくんのお嫁さんになりたいんですけど。
ヒューヒューヒュー。
みちおくんは彼女とかいるんですか？
そう女の子からの大胆告白ですね。みちおくんどうなのかな？
付き合ってる女か。困ったな。どうするか。Oh no!
ああ、みちおくんの「おーノー」が出ましたね。みちおくん困ってるみたいですね。
おーノー。
なんとかごまかせたか。
はーい、じゃあ次の質問を。
おい、うるせえぞ。
ん？
何なんですかあなたたち。
うるせえんだよ。こんなとこでガキを集めてギャーギャーやりやがってよ。
この辺は俺らの遊び場なんだよ。誰の許可取ってやってんだよ。
なんだよあいつら。
怖いよ。
子供たちが怖がってるじゃないですか。やめてください。
クソガキどもが。もっと怖くしてやろうか。ああ。
助けて。
おい。
あ？なんだお前。ダッセーキャラだな。
頭にラーメンつけてんのか？意味わかんねえ。流行んねえよそれ。
俺もそれはそう思う。だがな、ガキ泣かせて生きがってるてめえらよりはダサかねえよ。
あ？なんだと？
やんのかゆるキャラがよ。
俺はゆるキャラだがな、てめえら見逃せるほどゆるかねえんだよ。
面白い。おいお前ら、このゆるキャラぶっ殺すぞ。
なんだよこのゆるキャラ。
覚えてねえなら覚えとけ。俺は尾道のゆるキャラ、尾道だ。
尾道？なんでこんなゆるキャラが強えんだよ。ありえねえだろ。
運が悪かったんだよ。お前らは今度ガキを泣かせるようなことをしたら命はないと思うんだな。分かったらさっさと消えやがれ。
すみませんでした。
情けねえ連中だ。ああ、いやその尾道は喧嘩が得意でな。
かっこいい。
すごい。
え？
超かっこよかったよ、みちおくん。
すげえかっこいいよ。強いみちおくん。
守ってくれてありがとう、みちおくん。
かっこいい。
そうか。
ありがとうございました。本当にかっこよかったです。道夫くんはもはやゆるキャラじゃない、私たちを守ってくれるヒーローです。
そんな大したもんじゃねえよ。俺は所詮何の変哲もないただのゆるキャラだ。
みんな道夫くんにお礼を言いましょう。はい、
ありがとう、道。
どういたしまして道。
じゃあ最後、道夫くん締めてください。
しょうがねえな。よし行くぞ。チャーミングな八作フェイス、おしゃれな尾道ラーメン帽子、キュートな魚のポシェット、漁師の心意気、クールな長靴、生かしたなうい尾のトレーナー。そう俺こそが尾道の象徴、尾の道夫だ。
道夫
最高。いやー、本当にありがとうございました。おかげさまでイベントは大成功でした。
まったく一時はどうなることかと思ったぜ。結果素が出ちまったが、あんな感じで大丈夫なのか？
はい、逆に桐生さんの素の部分が融合して道夫くんのキャラクター性が高まった気がします。実はさっきのイベントネットでも配信してたんですけど、すごいアクセス数なんです。こりゃ道夫くん絶対人気出ますよ。
おお、それよかったな。
はい、これは今回のお礼です。受け取ってください。
まあ人生に一度くらいはこういう経験も悪くないかもな。
これから忙しくなりそうだぞ。じゃあ桐生さん、またよろしくお願いしますね。それでは。
ああ、またな。